Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous good-looking friends. I have a question for my viewers. Do you remember what Prince Harry was like before he met the Viper? Not many of us do, but I'm here to remind you because we are witnessing a lot of history being rewritten as a result of this woman's insecurity. Back in 2011, right before William and Catherine got married, there was royal fever here in the United States. Everyone was so excited to see Catherine get married, and the royals were more popular than ever. Many single women here in the United States dreamt of marrying a prince, and now they get to watch Catherine, who is a commoner, get married to a prince. So Prince Harry's popularity went up because he was now the bachelor. So there's a very popular cable network station called TLC, which is included in almost every single cable package here in the United States. And they're owned by Warner Brothers, so well known, decided to air a documentary focused all around Prince Harry, titled Wild About Prince Harry. Well, it looks like there has been a tremendous amount of effort to get this removed from the internet. Even Prince Harry's IMDb doesn't have it listed. So the question is, why? I don't have a good answer for that. However, there is good reason for why the wife would want this to be erased. That's because we see what America was like at that time and how we were talking about the royals. It's highly probable that Meghan Markle saw this broadcast most likely more than once. And it's highly probable that there was an effort to get this taken down from every streaming platform that was showing it. And that's because it paints a completely different picture than what was written in Spare, as well as amplify the toxicity that Prince Harry has in his life today. I don't know how long this video is going to stay up, but I suggest that you watch it straight through because it really is a big contrast to what we're seeing today. And quite frankly, I think it's going to be helpful when divorce proceedings begin. The whole changing of the narrative and rewriting history, at least we have some concrete evidence here that can show the type of person or the man that Prince Harry was prior to stepping into this shit situation. So without further ado, here is Wild About Harry from 2011.
With Prince William tying the knot, his younger brother and best man, Prince Harry, moves into the #1 spot as the world's most eligible bachelor.
He's got a glint in his eye and he's got a spark to him, and girls find him sexy.
But the future hasn't always looked so bright for this 26-year-old prince. The tragic loss of his mother, Princess Diana, took its toll on the teenage Harry.
It soon became clear that Harry had gone off the rails.
Harry was kind of a prince without a purpose. No one knew what to do with him.
So how did he change his image from royal rebel to people's prince? Was it fighting on the front line in Afghanistan?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm out here as a normal British soldier, but not Prince Harry.
Was it the love of a good woman?
They weren't together for the public eye, they were purely together because they loved each other.
Or will there be more wild nights in the future?
I think there's a few more years of partying in Harry yet.
This is the remarkable story of a prince who dares to be his own man, and why the world is now wild about Prince Harry. By 2005, Prince Harry had earned himself the reputation as a bad boy. Run-ins with the paparazzi, reports of drug use, and photos of hard partying all painted a picture far from the image the world first got of him. On September 15, 1984, 2 years after the birth of Big Brother William, Prince Henry Charles Albert David of Wales was born. Harry, as he instantly became known, completed a new royal family.
The birth of Harry made the country very happy. I mean, we wanted to see Charles and Diana produce children, and there was great excitement. The Queen was thrilled to have another grandson, and I think the country joined in that celebration.
But it wasn't long before his mother was calling Harry the naughty one.
Harry was the boisterous one. His mother often complained that if you left him alone in the kitchen, he would somehow find his way onto the table and launch himself off it.
As children, William would be the more serious, astute, sort of studious boy, and Harry would be the practical joker.
No one could have guessed that these were just the first signs of a much wilder side that would emerge later.
All right, keep him on a short rein.
But the royal couple strive to help their boys avoid the troubles and trappings of royal youth by giving them a modern upbringing quite...
Charles came into his own at the weekends. Every weekend, the family would go down from London to the country house, Highgrove in Gloucestershire, and Charles introduced him to country life. He showed him the things he liked doing, and they were predominantly outside things.
And Charles didn't want his sons to have the same experience he'd had at a strict boarding school far from home.
Schooling was critical for Charles and Diana, and they both agreed on where the boys should go to school. They wanted them to start with to go to schools locally to where they lived.
So at the age of 3, a rather nervous Harry joined big brother William at a private kindergarten in West London.
There was that iconic image of Prince Harry on his way to his first day of school, and while any child might have been taken aback to see a throng of photographers wanting to snap their photo, there is Princess Diana saying to him that he should just wave and smile and move on, because this is something that he would have to be doing his entire life.
But little Harry's nerves soon gave way to his customary naughtiness.
2 hours later, the young prince left for home. He'd made a pair of cardboard binoculars, determined to beat the press at their own game.
One of the teachers said it wasn't that he became bored, he just seemed to want to liven things up a bit.
Prince Harry was in the assembly and all the little children were in the front row. Harry was sitting by the pianist's leg and he saw that his zipper was undone on his trousers. And he kept saying, Mr. Pritchard, Mr. Pritchard. And he goes, what is it, Harry? He said, well, your zipper's undone. All the children in the front row burst out laughing. Later that day, Diana was called in for a dressing down about Harry's behaviour, but she couldn't help laughing. She was in fits of giggles.
It wasn't simply the choice of schools. Diana was determined to keep William and Harry's royal feet firmly planted on the ground.
She always knew that the boys should be shown life, and as children, she would take them and expose them to ordinary life, to meet ordinary people.
She was keen for them to go and visit the homeless, to see people who are struggling so they could get an understanding for when they grow up and become more rounded individuals.
There was one occasion in Kensington High Street when William and Harry were with Princess Diana, and they went into the hamburger joint, and it was completely crowded. And the manager came out and he said to Princess Diana, come on, I'll open a till just for you. And Diana said, well, no, open a till for the rest of the people, not just for us.
The Prince and Princess of Wales understood that one day their eldest son would be king, but they didn't want that to affect either boy's childhood.
Princess Diana always knew William would get all the attention and Harry would be left out. So as children, Princess Diana did treat both boys exactly the same.
Charles and Diana went out of their way to try and make Harry seem much more on an even keel with William than he might possibly have been had he been born a generation earlier.
Charles and Diana were united as parents, but as a couple, they were headed for a split. In 1992, the British Prime Minister, John Major, confirmed the rumors.
It is announced from Buckingham Palace that, with regret, the Prince and Princess of Wales have decided to separate.
And for 8-year-old Harry and 10-year-old William, the split came as no great surprise.
There's no doubt that Prince William was probably more aware of his parents' marital disharmony. I think that they tried to keep Harry out of it because of his tender age, but he was aware, as any young kid would be, that their mum and dad were going through problems.
It was terribly difficult, the separation between Charles and Diana. There was constant signs that they were competing with one another to win the affection of the boys, which was terribly destructive.
The War of the Waleses was going on throughout this time, and it was awful for the boys to be caught in the middle of that. The hideous rows, Diana used to throw things. It can't have been good for them.
4 years later, after both Charles and Diana had admitted publicly to having affairs, the marriage was officially over.
They had led fairly separate lives for years. The newspapers were reporting on this in great detail. It was quite clear they weren't happy in each other's company.
I don't think Harry took the news of the divorce very well. He kept it inside, from what we understand. He lent on his brother quite a lot, Prince William, for emotional support, because at that stage, they were able to talk regularly and were able to support each other through a crisis that only they could understand.
The charities and the good causes, the glittering balls and the lavish holidays are over now.
Princess Diana's tragic death leaves a young Prince Harry suddenly motherless.
You saw this little character who was completely lost.
It's probably the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life.
By his 12th birthday in 1996, Prince Harry had endured the very public divorce of his parents, the Prince and Princess of Wales. They now lived separate lives, but Charles and Diana still put Harry and William's happiness as their #1 priority.
They had it well worked out. Harry would spend a lot of time with Diana at Kensington Palace, and then he would go away and spend a week or so with Charles. It worked well.
I think one of the good things that both Charles and Diana did is that they were still both very involved afterwards, and in a lot of ways, kind of having that more public side would have made it easier, because that would be very containing, especially during times of disruption.
In July of 1997, Diana took Harry and William away on a Mediterranean cruise, staying on the private yacht of billionaire businessman Mohammed Al Fayed. It would prove to be the last vacation with their mom.
Harry loved that holiday on the yacht. I mean, it was a money-no-object holiday. Jet skis, fast motorboats, lovely temperatures. He had great fun.
During that trip, Diana began a whirlwind romance with Mohammed's son, Dodi.
Harry rather liked Dodi because, can you imagine, Dodi Al Fayed's father owned Harrods, and that was the largest store in London, so everything was at the boy's disposal.
The world's media caught wind of the romance and wouldn't leave Diana and the young princes alone.
Press attention always upset Harry. If it upset his mother, if she was handling it, he was fine. And she had a technique by that stage of her life. She wanted to protect the boys, so she made herself the target for the cameras in the hope that it would sort of take them away from William and Harry, and it did work.
When the vacation was over, Harry and William joined their father at Balmoral, the Queen's Castle in Scotland. But the peace and tranquility there didn't last long. In France, Diane and Dodi's vacation had taken a tragic turn.
The charities and the good causes, the glittering balls and the lavish holidays are over now. At 3 o'clock this morning, London time, they announced that Diana, Princess of Wales, was dead.
12-year-old Harry and 15-year-old William's world was about to be turned upside down.
Charles had received the news of Diana's death during the night and had told William first, and William had said he wanted to be with Charles when his father went and broke the news to Harry. They left Harry and didn't break the news to him until the morning when he woke up.
The boys were absolutely devastated, of course, at the loss of their mother and could hardly comprehend a life without her. Harry couldn't compose himself. He ran the full length of the corridor, flung himself into my arms, and literally wouldn't let go. He sobbed his little heart out.
Diana's death on August 31st, 1997, was a day the world won't easily forget.
The people everywhere, they kept faith with Princess Diana. They liked her, they loved her. She was the people's princess. And that's how she will stay, how she will remain in our hearts and in our memories forever.
And William and Harry took solace in reading the thousands of cards left by mourners.
They started off on a slightly small scale at Balmoral, and then when they flew down to London, they came to Kensington Palace, which had been turned into a sea of mourning. Flowers and balloons just everywhere. It was an immense spectacle. I think he was overwhelmed by it. I think he was immensely touched too.
Thank you very much. They knew their mother was loved. They just had no idea how loved she was. So they were consoled by those cards and by all those people wishing them, hoping that somehow they could get through this nightmare.
On September 6th, over 1 million people lined the streets of London as Diana's funeral procession made its way to Westminster Abbey.
It's the silence, just the clip-clop of the horses. It's probably the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Accompanied by their father, grandfather, and Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, William and Harry walked behind the casket as a final tribute to their mother.
was heartbreaking. The whole world were feeling for this poor little boy and, you know, the future that he had in front of him without his mum.
When it comes to young people and funerals, there are probably two images that are just unforgettable. The first was John Kennedy Jr. when he salutes the coffin, and the other is Harry.
You saw this little character who was completely lost, and you just felt nothing but total sympathy and warmth for him. I remember when you saw the card with Mummy written on it, clearly from Harry, it was just so moving and so upsetting that the real tragedy, the real human tragedy came home to you.
No one knows what was written in that little letter. That's between Harry and his mother.
After Diana's funeral, Harry returned to his boarding school, Ludgrove. With his brother William now at Eton, Harry was never more alone.
Harry was a mess, quite frankly. Floods of tears, very upset. As you would expect, he was a young 12. So he badly needed someone to wrap their arms around him.
Harry had always been quite a carefree young boy, and his mother's death changed him in a way that, you know, life became more serious. How could it not?
Harry lost his fun side. He lost that exciting, vibrant, jokey side which we knew so well. He did really take it very seriously that the one person in his life whom he could rely on to be there wasn't there anymore.
With no one to guide him, Harry spirals out of control.
The Queen was concerned. Prince Harry, after all, was a prince, not a pop star. This is not good publicity for the royal family.
People were beginning to ask what was the point of Prince Harry.
Not yet a teenager, Prince Harry was struggling to cope with the loss of his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. The following year, in 1998, 13-year-old Harry joined brother William at Eton, England's most prestigious boarding school.
Eton supplies Great Britain with prime ministers, generals, foreign secretaries. People who run the country go to Eton.
While William was doing well in class, Harry didn't take to studying.
He's not necessarily the most academic lad. His mother certainly was looking at alternative schools, less academic schools, but it was decided it'd be best for Harry to be with William so that they could support each other through the difficult times.
Though the other aspects of school life did prove a welcome distraction.
Harry is not as academic as his brother, so for him, school was much, much more a time to have fun.
Harry earned a reputation as a practical joker. He was always the boy who would put the book above the door so that when the teacher came in, oh, look, it's fallen on the teacher's head. It was always Harry that did.
Being a second child lets you off the hook a little bit. You don't have to live up to the shoulds and have-tos in quite the same way. And, you know, you see from very early on a bit of that rebellion within him.
But Harry, the schoolboy prankster, didn't change as he got older. When he turned 16, Harry's troublemaking became an issue. While home on break, Harry and 19-year-old William converted the basement of Highgrove, their father's country house, into a place for them and their friends to hang out. They called it Club H.
They painted the walls black, so it was like a nightclub. They had a big sound system, they had a fridge for their drinks, and it was also where Harry started smoking a lot.
Harry went over the top, as he invariably does. He had his own bar. He was allowed to invite friends back. They were allowed to run it themselves.
His father was away a lot, therefore he was given a lot more freedom than perhaps he should have had.
But things took a more sinister turn when Harry was caught smoking marijuana.
It was very surprising at the time to see in the same headline Prince Harry and marijuana, purely because this was not the kind of thing that the royal family went through.
The Queen was certainly outraged, thinking, what are my grandchildren doing?
It opened the floodgates, and it soon became clear that Harry had gone off the rails.
Charles didn't know what to do. And it was William that pacified him. It was William that said, nobody knows Harry like I do, Dad. If there was a serious problem, I would know it.
So rather than simply punish Harry, Prince Charles tried to reform him.
Charles had a brilliant strategy. He had him sent to a drug rehabilitation centre where he could have a look at first hand the effects of drug addiction.
On top of the problems with alcohol and drugs, Harry faced rumors that Prince Charles might not be his real father. It had been reported that James Hewitt, a former British cavalry officer who'd had an affair with Diana, could be Harry's dad.
Harry was born with that startling red hair and very pale complexion, looking very unlike Prince William and very unlike his father. Rumours were rife that he was, in fact, Hewitt's son.
He must be aware of all the gossip. Attempts have been made over the years to try and get DNA samples. It must be very disturbing for him.
Diana didn't meet James Hewitt until Harry was 2 years old, but because Hewitt has red hair and Harry has red hair, everybody jumped to the wrong conclusion.
He looks like a Spencer, he looks like Diana's brother, and I just feel really sorry for a young prince growing up with all these rumours that his dad isn't his dad.
Despite the scandals, Harry graduated from Eton, and with no plans to go on to college, he revelled in the bright lights of London.
When he turned 18, he burst onto the scene because he had a penchant for clubbing. So we would see Prince Harry out and about, drinking, emerging from clubs very late at night. And that's when we first crowned Prince Harry as the party prince.
As a former gossip columnist, I used to see Harry out and about quite a lot, particularly at his favourite haunts, where he'd be there with his quite raucous bunch of friends, drinking and generally being loud.
And after one heavy night of drinking, events took a nasty turn.
He'd had a bad night. He tried to chat up a model in the nightclub. That had all gone very badly wrong, and he was a bit embarrassed. And then when he left the nightclub after drinking too much, paparazzi maybe got a bit close, and he lashed out against them.
We're talking about a young man who has been drinking and who's then confronted by the people who, let's not forget, both he and his brother blamed for his mother's death.
And 20-year-old Harry's image hit rock bottom soon after, when he was pictured at a friend's costume party wearing a swastika armband.
Absolute disastrous decision. Really, somebody, perhaps Prince William, who was at the same party, should have said that's just totally inappropriate.
Why he wore that Nazi uniform is a mystery, because the theme of the party was a colonial party, and William, for example, went dressed as a lion.
It came out afterwards that it was sort of a desperate last-minute decision. I guess he didn't know what else to wear.
It was so badly judged, so stupid. I think we all felt a bit crestfallen and just like, Harry, you've got to change, this is wrong.
People questioned who was guiding Harry.
Well, that's the great puzzle. Charles inevitably was away. He was with Camilla, so he was sort of cast as the uncaring parent yet again.
Harry did express regret publicly, and while many people called for a televised apology, it was, in the end, something that the palace decided to handle as a private matter.
But the apology did little to restore Harry's reputation.
I think Harry had a rough deal. Every mistake he made, from wearing sort of the wrong costume to, falling out of the wrong nightclub, to it just turned into a huge, huge mess for him.
There's nothing the press like more than putting people in a box, and for them this was wonderful. You had Prince William, who was incredibly well behaved, and now they were given the spare, as they called him, and so people were beginning to ask, what was the point of Prince Harry?
Who is the blonde who tried to tame Harry's wild side?
They weren't together for the public eye, they were purely together because they loved each other.
In the years following Diana's death, Harry earned himself a reputation as the Playboy Prince.
Harry was kind of a prince without a purpose. He didn't know what to do, and I think losing his mother and then being unsure about the future really left him open to sort of bad influences.
The Queen was concerned. Prince Harry, after all, was a prince, not a pop star. This is not good publicity for the royal family.
And in his late teens, Harry certainly knew how to have a good time.
Harry on a night out can be incredible to witness. He might strip off, play drinking games. There was also one night when he emerged from a club with a phone number written on his hand.
He has been known to enjoy fruit-flavored vodka shots and champagne, that he dances in the DJ booth.
I use a laptop to DJ on, and I remember him standing in front of the DJ box, putting his hand in front of the screen, thinking it was quite funny.
That Mahiki, which is the club that really has become associated with Harry. Some of Harry's bar bills have been astronomical.
And Harry was almost always a hit with the ladies.
Prince Harry would get so much female attention that some of his bodyguards said that peeling the women off was like peeling a banana.
There's lots of stories about him out and about in London, buying champagne and cocktails for glamorous, gorgeous women. But who can blame him? He's a prince, he's young, he's having fun.
But at 19, there was one particular girl that caught Harry's eye.
Chelsea Davy is a blonde, bright, South African-born young woman who rapidly has become the love of his life.
Chelsea Davy came on the scene when Prince Harry went out to Africa and met this sassy, very beautiful blonde.
Their relationship was known within royal circles for a few months, but it was only when they went on a holiday to Buenos Aires and were pictured together that for the first time we actually realised that they were a proper item.
The pair sizzled when they were together.
When you look at those pictures of Chelsea and Harry at rugby matches, there's just a lot of heat between them.
Harry was always attracted to the fact that Chelsea wasn't like these other posh British girls that he came across, and that she was someone who was much more down to earth.
Chelsea was attracted to Harry because he's funny. He's not stuffy as you might expect a prince to be.
I think Harry and Chelsea's relationship was built on having fun, laughing. They weren't together for the public eye, they were purely together because they loved each other.
And wherever the couple went, so did the paparazzi.
There have been instances where he's worn disguises. He was once reportedly wearing a black wig to a nightclub to avoid being seen partying with her.
When Prince Harry and Chelsea are out, they'll generally leave separately. They don't make it easy for you to get pictures of them together.
But the press was not always kind to the lovebirds.
Harry has always been very, very protective of Chelsea. He famously gave an interview when he turned 21, said he found the attention that he received, but also the attention that she received very, very difficult.
It does irritate me because obviously I get to see how upset she gets, and I know the real her. But that's something that we deal with on our own time.
If Chelsea provided some much-needed emotional stability for Harry, at 20, he also discovered a new purpose in life. In 2005, the prince enrolled at Sandhurst, Britain's version of West Point.
Sandhurst is the premier British military academy. It's where we turn rough young men into smart young officers.
Harry developed an interest in the army many, many years ago when he was a very young boy. So there was no surprise amongst anyone that knew Harry as a young man that he would end up in the army.
Harry had to clean his own shoes, he had to make his own bed. In fact, bed making apparently was something he excelled at.
I think within a few months at Sandhurst, he went from being an irresponsible young boy like many others to a young man who was aware suddenly of what people were going through and the realities of war.
A reality that would soon be his own as Harry prepared for active duty in Afghanistan.
If they said, no, you can't go front line, then I wouldn't drag my sorry ass through Sandhurst, and I wouldn't be where I am now, because the last thing I want to do is have my soldiers sent away to Iraq or wherever like that, and for me to be held back home twiddling my thumbs.
Prince Harry fights on the front line. But are his party boy antics really behind him? Prince Harry had arrived at Sandhurst Military Academy as an immature 20-year-old, but graduated a man. By 23, his military career was a success, but the same could not be said of his relationship with 22-year-old Chelsea Davy.
Harry most certainly has a wandering eye. It's something that Chelsea, especially in the early days, found very, very difficult. Harry's been linked to a succession of girls: Camilla Romstrad, the DC housewife, Catherine Armani.
When he's been caught flirting with other girls, strip joints and bars and places like that, she hasn't been best pleased, and she's got a bit of gumption about her. She'll just turn around and say, well, if you want to do that, but don't waste my time.
Chelsea had just had enough. She wanted to get away. That's when she thought, look, you need to go off and be a young single lad.
If Harry couldn't decide on a future with Chelsea, there was one thing he was very sure about. He wanted to serve on the front line.
Harry is quite specific. If he's going to be a soldier, he has to be a proper soldier. There's no good him just having all the outfits and having all the training if he's not going to use it.
It wasn't the first time a member of the royal family had gone into battle, but the conflict in Afghanistan was different.
Prince Andrew served with British forces during the Falklands War in 1982. Andrew had been sort of kept back and he was slightly protected. But Iraq and Afghanistan were a nasty, difficult, dangerous war, and it was thought it was almost impossible for members of the royal family to serve out there.
Senior royal journalists and editors were all called into the MOD, and a decision was made that we wouldn't reveal that he was going there on the grounds that it would endanger not only Harry, but the lives of other serving officers.
And in November 2007, shrouded in secrecy, Harry flew with his men to Afghanistan.
28 is 341, decimal 850, responder. Look at the crowd now, grenade to the 3. 6, 7,
Second Lieutenant Wales, as Harry was known, worked as a forward air controller, holding the lives of fellow soldiers in his hands. He guided fighter jets towards Taliban targets.
There's a lot of speculation that basically he was just there for show. That isn't the case. He continued to push to go to the forward operating bases, which he was allowed to do rather than just be kept safe. And so he did see proper action.
Out on the front line, Harry enjoyed his anonymity.
It's very nice to be sort of a normal person. For once, I think this is about as normal as I'm ever going to get. As far as I'm concerned, I'm out here as a normal JTAC on the ground and not Prince Harry.
Harry's down-to-earth attitude won him respect among his men.
Working alongside him has been really, really fantastic, actually. He's absolutely amazing at what he does, and I'm glad he actually had the chance and opportunity to get out here and do what he does.
You do the job. Everyone's the same. Everyone's life is as important as everybody else's. I've never felt particularly in threat, and I don't think anybody else has yet, you know.
But Harry's tour of duty was cut short when U.S. website The Drudge Report revealed his whereabouts. With his cover blown, it was too dangerous to Harry's men for him to stay in Afghanistan. He was forced to go home.
And so ends Prince Harry's brief Afghan tour of duty. Second Lieutenant Wales is back in England.
He had no choice. They had to pull him out. He was quite understandably annoyed by that extraction. The reality is he was able to prove himself as much as he could.
Harry only managed to spend 2 months out in Afghanistan, but I think he learned that it was a very difficult military operation.
I didn't see it coming. It's a shame. I'm so disappointed. I thought I could sit through to the end and come back with sort of our guys and the Colonel himself.
While Harry was disappointed, his ex-girlfriend Chelsea Davy was relieved to see him safely home. After a separation of 3 months, she wanted her man back.
Soon after he arrived back from the war zone, he rekindled his relationship with Chelsea Davy.
It helped Harry a lot, knowing that Chelsea was waiting for him. He had her photograph in his wallet. He talked about her to his mates.
They disappeared off to Africa and had a chance to re-evaluate their position. They decided to continue going out with each other.
Chelsea tried everything to make the relationship work the second time around, including moving to England from her native South Africa. But in 2010, after 7 years of on and off dating, 24-year-old Chelsea called it quits.
Chelsea's famously independent-minded, and because her parents are wealthy, she doesn't have any particular need of the royal family.
She doesn't want to be restricted. She likes having a good time. She doesn't want to be criticised for what she does, what she wears, what she says.
She'd had enough of being in the royal fishbowl. She missed her family and her friends and the lifestyle so much in South Africa. She hated how long Harry was away in the army, and he actually even followed her out to South Africa to have a crunch meeting and try and get her to change her mind. It just didn't work. She was having none of it.
Back on the dating scene, who will be the next girl to catch Prince Harry's eye?
Knowing Harry as I do, there's every chance he'll end up marrying Britney Spears or somebody who looks like Pamela Anderson.
Sent home early from the front line and back on the single scene, would Harry be returning to his wild ways?
Public opinion has completely changed about Prince Harry in recent years. He has become a bit more sensible, but I think the majority of it is down to his very, very passionate work in the army.
It shows us that he's not just this silly party boy. He has been on the front line in Afghanistan with his men alongside them, and that was really important for him.
And after his experiences in Afghanistan, Harry is committed to helping servicemen and women injured on the front line. In April 2011, this commitment took Harry to the Arctic Circle, supporting 4 wounded veterans as they trekked to the North Pole.
It's truly an honor. I mean, I can relate to these guys. I've been there, they've been there. They're not just doing it for themselves, they're doing it for all their mates and all their comrades who have come back or are still coming back from Afghanistan or Iraq. And it just proves that, life doesn't stop there, it continues.
And even in freezing temperatures, this cheeky prince still managed to have fun. But it's not just his own people Harry is committed to helping. Like his mother, he is using his royal status to help good causes all over the world. When he was 19, Harry traveled to Lesotho, a village destroyed by AIDS in southern Africa.
He set up Centre Bali, which means forget-me-not. There's a real connection between his work and Diana's, and he really is doing it, not only in her memory, but also because he believes fully that he can make a difference.
He's been involved in building projects. He even brought out a whole bunch of soldiers from his unit to help build a school. It's clearly something which is very close to his heart.
Look what the cat dragged in. Don't be like that.
In 2010, Harry took brother William to Africa to share in his efforts.
It's a fantastic opportunity for me to show William exactly what Centre Bali is all about, the vulnerable children. And I think it's, now things are going in the right direction, and I'm really proud of Centre Bali, really proud of all the kids, and the fact they help themselves is a great thing. So, yeah, I'm just happy to have him here with me.
That same summer, a newly matured Prince Harry arrived on America's shores.
His visit to New York was absolutely electrifying. I don't think there was a single person around who wasn't sort of gravitating towards him.
When Prince Harry went to New York, one of the most important things for him was to visit the injured service personnel there.
Barry broke a sweat.
Barry broke a sweat. No, I've been sweating for days.
We can go again.
I think that it certainly boosted his appeal in America as the legacy of Princess Diana.
What was particularly remarkable as somebody who was watching him on the deck of the Intrepid, it was just palpable in the air that everybody there wanted to speak to him. And yet he spent, multiple minutes speaking with one injured soldier. And it just showed a tremendous amount of compassion, sort of a down-to-earth quality that I think was remarkable for everybody there to see.
Back at home, Harry is committed to his career in the Army, and training to become a helicopter pilot has allowed him and William some rare time together.
I cook him and feed him basically every day. I think he's done rather well.
I told us the other week that he did all the washing up.
He does do a bit of the washing up, then he leaves most of it in the sink, and then it comes back in the morning and I have to wash it up.
Oh, the lies.
Joking aside, Harry understands how William will need him in the future.
Despite me having sort of maybe potentially a slightly easier sort of track, I mustn't forget that his life is going to be a lot harder and more demanding, and that I need to be there for him whenever he needs me.
Perhaps one of the most surprising developments for 26-year-old Harry is surpassing William as the world's most eligible bachelor.
Prince Harry became a really unlikely sex symbol after his time in Afghanistan. A whole lot of pictures were released of him playing rugby, looking completely ripped and toned. And actually, at that point, he overtook his brother as the most popular prince in the looks department.
A recent poll nominated Prince Harry as the most desirable husband in the world, which was quite a feat.
William's obviously weighed down by his responsibilities, whereas Harry's still this sort of naughty little thing out there having fun. He's got a glint in his eye and he's got a bit more spark to him, and girls find him sexy.
And he certainly is a catch. On his 30th birthday, Harry's set to receive $15 million from his mother's estate. And in the future, he'll most likely inherit a stately home or two as well. But is he ready to settle down like his older brother?
Word has it that Kate Middleton's final wish as a single girl is to get Harry and Chelsea back together. Now, this looks fairly likely because the two of them were out on Valentine's night, clubbing into the early hours, and were seen being bundled off in a car.
Very difficult to know who Harry might go out with next because he's sort of broken the mould. He hasn't gone for sort of traditional royal girlfriends. So I don't think we should expect Harry to do the traditional. I think he'll do something, he'll surprise us all.
Knowing Harry as I do, there's every chance he'll end up marrying Britney Spears or somebody who looks like Pamela Anderson.
I think there's a few more years of partying in Harry yet. Hopefully he'll find a woman that he can love and trust and cherish. But I don't think that's immediately on the horizon. My view is that he's a character that we love because he's flawed, and he'll continue to be loved because he's flawed.
And what would Diana have made of her youngest son, Harry, whom she fondly called the naughty one?
Diana adored Harry, and she would be very proud of the man he's become. He is the essence of Diana. He's the fun side of Diana. He's that person she'd want him to be.
Well, I'm sure that Princess Diana, from the woman I knew, would be extremely proud, and rightly so, of her son. When you see him in the orphanage at Lesotho and you see him connecting with those poor children that are suffering from HIV, you really do see the connection with his mother.
We're all looking out to see if Harry or William has the Diana touch. Which of the boys is going to become their mother? And I suspect it's Harry who's got that ability to get on with people of all classes, of all backgrounds. Harry has the burden of being a member of the royal family, but the approach of being a very ordinary kind of guy. And I think he's got to work at it, but I think he could do it.
From his raucous partying to fighting on the front line, Harry has gone from royal rebel to the people's prince. And the people are now wild about Prince Harry.
I think it's really sad to see how one person can take someone who had so much to give and bring him down, all because his wife can't handle her insecurities. I'm not giving Harry a pass for his bad behavior. I think that it's unfortunate that he has been influenced and surrounded by, quite frankly, the wrong people. I don't have a good feeling about this, and I find it quite creepy that Marcus Anderson pops up out of nowhere in the last couple of weeks. Like, where was he during this crazy car chase? It does appear that Meghan is getting the band back together to begin another grift. I think all we can do at this point is just pray for Harry in hopes that he finds his way back to the way that he was. Perhaps maybe do some amnesia therapy to erase this nightmare that he's been living the last 5 years. Anyhow, that's what I have for you today. Let me know what you think. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye!
Such a fraud.